Hello everyone, my name is Jesus Corona Rodriguez and today I'll be making a presentation of Futurism and its history. We start with Filippo Marinetti. He was born December 22nd in Alexandria, Egypt. He lived from 1976 to 1944. He was a poet and author. He is also considered the founding father of Futurism. He was a writer and a poet. He explored theology and drama through his works, meaning novels and plays. He liked to explore this theory, which led him towards the creation of Futurism. He liked to express the media in his creations. He liked to show popular media and technology. He representing the modern at the time problems in and the modern experience that and some of his works were influenced by a lot of different arts, but at the time that Futurism was coming to be and was getting a foundation for itself, Futurism was considered to be based off of Cubism. Cubism had a lot of influence in Futurism. Cubism was as per se basis for Futurism. It helped show its foundation. It helped to show the basis in which it was upon established. Futurism was mainly shown in his it was shown in his 1909 manifesto, which was actually published in a local newspapers called Le Figaro. This publishment was actually the start of Futurism for this generation and the influence towards artists and novels throughout that time, and Italy had the most influence towards this new space of art. And this is one of his works. It's not his manifesto from 1909, we'll see that later in a little bit, but this is one of his works that has the principles of the work of Futurism and and shows the Cubism influence that it was picking up. You can see Cubism in this work of art, but it doesn't necessarily just construct out of Cubism. It has other factors going into it. It also shows some of the modernist and popular media that was at the time. Buildings are rising up. They're showing towards brighter spots on this work of art. This work of art is showing that Futurism is the future is growing towards newer heights. Futurism is trying to show and encompass this new creation. For his pieces of Marinetti, he shows a first plane, a base. He shows something that will draw your attention first and then lead you towards what is the rest. He has secondary pieces showing what is it that he wants to represent. He's showing the buildings rising. He's showing how these two pieces lead towards bright spots in this work of art. He also has a third component mainly shown in everything, which is a thin strip that shows balance in both sides. Both sides have a piece of the main beginning, so it has a piece of the thing that the composition that draws you in towards the picture. Then it has those two secondary components that lead you towards the right point, the point that he wants to make, that statement, and that thin strip shows you where that balance would be. Now this is his manifesto in 1909. His manifesto was the start of Futurism, and this work he's using more typography than actual just composition and drawing. So for this manifesto he was trying to communicate without like bright colors, not a lot of symbolism. He's just like, this is what's happening today, we need to show this, and we need to main component, it's bolded. The typography for this main component is bolded, it stands out more, it's bigger than the rest of everything. So this is the main piece that drives you in towards his work. It's showing you what the secondary piece is the smaller, not bolded font, which explains what he wants to show. It's the development of the title. he shows what is going on with his work. Then we have that thin strip. This thin strip is dividing right through the middle, is dividing the compositions of the bolded title and the bolded secondary component, showing what he wants. Is showing that there's balance, that there's not too much or too little in both sides. So this main component is showing what he wanted to express. Is showing that Futurism is towards having balance in every which way and aspect that you have. Is showing that the future relies in popular media and the technology that was being developed at the time. Filippo and his manifesto were a really big influence, not only in authors, it was also in poets, it was also in writing and novels. This came mostly because he was a poet and an author foremost. So this means that he was showing another perspective with typography, not just his works of art. Sadly, Filippo lost some backing when he became when he was becoming a pacifist, pacifist. So he lost the backing that he had at the beginning. His works still though influenced, so he started losing following in 1920s. So his work wasn't as big as it was at the beginning. He still managed to influence a lot of the artists and modern foremost artists that were showing interest in Futurism. One of those artists was Émile Zola. He was a French novelist, so this shows that his manifesto managed to reach over not only Italy and Egypt, it also went towards French and other parts of the continent. So it showed that his work was taking roots all over the continent and improving what it was. His work was mainly based on Cubism, and it showed towards his work. One of Zola works was Zest for Life. So this work of art has typography as well as pieces of. It does have some components from Filippo. It has the Zest for Life. So it's what draws you in. It's the different colors. It's a bigger font, and it's completely contrasting with whatever everything else that has around it. Secondary component, which is his name, the name of the author, showing that this is the second component. This is not as important, and the first thing. So it's kind of a reversed, an inverse of what Filippo was doing with his work. It doesn't have the same kind of balance that Filippo's work has. It does divide the secondary component and has a balance between one side and the other, but the primary component, the thing that draws you in, is all on one side. However, in the other side is being balanced by the other piece of the composition. It's a drawing of a woman, and it's showing that although it's not typography, there is a balance between all the development. So it shows that there is a piece of typography on one side and a piece of the composition in the other that makes a balance between it. It might not be typography, and that's quite alright. It still balances itself out because it has typography on one side and it has another piece of the composition. It has another drawing of the composition, showing that there is still balance on his work. Till this day, Filippo has been influenced Futurism, and he has been he was being taken into account for a lot of books showing Futurism. He is being taken into account for a lot of works of art, and this is just this was just the beginning of his work. Émile Zola just showed how much his work influenced. He was born in Egypt. He worked in Italy, and his work was able to go all the way through the continent and went to places just like France, and it was developing, and it showed how it came to be. It also influenced new ways of art for other inspirations and other artists.